Welcome to PV Online Physics. Today we're going to take a look at free fall problems. And free fall is just simply when an object is undergoing acceleration due to gravity. So you'll notice that we have our three kinematics equations, but they're slightly altered, they're slightly modified because instead of having A, we have G. And remember, G for gravity is going to have a value of negative 9.8 meters per second squared. And the negative sign simply tells us that gravity always acts down. Even when you jump up, gravity is pulling down on you. So we want to take a look at this first problem, and let's go ahead and read the problem and underline anything that's important. Now this 10 kilograms is a value, and it's dropped from rest, and we know that when an object is dropped from rest, or when it's at rest, that means its velocity is 0. And since that's at the beginning, I'm going to say my initial velocity is 0. I want to know how far, so I'm looking for the displacement. That's what we're looking for. Will it drop in 5.5 seconds? So that's going to be my time, is 5.5 seconds. And you look at it, and at first glance, it's like, dang, we don't have very much information. So let's take a look at this first equation, equation 1. I don't have V final, and I'm not looking for it, not yet anyway, so I'm not going to use that one. Let's look at equation 2. Okay, equation 2 has distance, which is what I need. I've got initial velocity, I've got time. I know that gravity is negative 9.8, and I've got time. So you can see that all those variables we've got satisfied. We're either looking for it or we have the number. So let's go ahead and write our equation down, that the distance equals the initial velocity times time plus 1/2 gt squared. And so the distance is what I'm looking for. How far will it drop? So the distance is going to equal 0, that's my initial velocity, times 5.5 plus 1/2 times negative 9.8 times, oops, I'm running out of space, 5.5, and don't forget to square that. All right, the 0 times 5.5 is going to be 0. That whole thing cancels out because anything times 0 is going to equal 0. Okay, so now I'm going to plug into my calculator the 1/2 times negative 9.8 times 5.5 squared. Make sure you try this so that you're getting the same answers. And I get a negative 148 meters. So the negative sign simply tells me that I'm traveling a distance below where I start. So remember, the negative sign just gives us the direction. So I have found how far that we fall. Now, for the next question, we want to find out how fast will it be moving. So now I want to find out as it hits the ground. Now this will always be just before it hits the ground, not after it hits the ground and stops. So just before it hits the ground, I want to know the velocity. So that's going to be our final velocity. So I want to know what my final velocity is. I've got all the other variables. I've got the initial velocity, I've got time, I've got gravity. So now you choose which equation do you want. You could use this one. I've got the initial velocity, I've got gravity, I've got time. Or I could do this one. So just for practice, let's go ahead and use the third equation. So we've got the equation that final velocity squared equals the initial velocity squared plus 2g times my displacement. All right, I'm looking for the final velocity. My initial velocity is 0, so I can just take that term out. It can go away. I'm going to take 2 times negative 9.8 times the distance, which we just found that to be negative 148. And so now what's going to happen is my velocity is going to become positive. But that's important because of the square root. If you put a negative value in a square root, your calculator would say, no, that's no good. So it's going to end up being positive, and I end up with 53.9. But since it's falling down, I'm going to go ahead and put in a negative sign in there again because I know that it's falling down, it's moving downward, and we've decided that anything going down is negative. And so there you go. We have our answer. Just for the heck of it, though, let's go ahead and use that other equation. Let's go ahead and use the first equation. So I'm going to use V final equals the initial velocity plus gravity times time. My initial velocity is 0. That's going to be negative 9.8. And my time was 5.5 seconds. That gives me a final velocity of negative 53.9. So whichever equation you choose, you'll be fine. It's appropriate either way. So now you can try some of the free fall problems. Good luck.